Hello. Right, today I want to talk about a rather a subject that is hard to swallow sometimes, but we've got to get to the bottom of these things. And that's about this question about oral sex and anal sex. According to Jehovah's Witnesses, which one is the perverted act? Both or one? I'll tell you why this subject has come up, because I forgot that I wrote to the Watchtower. There are the letters. I wrote to the Watchtower, to the Bethel in Ridgeway, I don't even know if they're there anymore, in 2002, to try and understand which they were. And I tell you why this was the case. I got married in 1986. And prior to getting married, we were quite close to another couple who got married either earlier that year or the year before. I think it was earlier that year. And the guy's name was Paul. His father was an elder and Paul was a servant, and he said that prior to him getting married, that his dad had put him to the side and referenced this. Well, this is a print off here from Watchtower of 1983. To advise him what was in and what was out, shake it all about, when it comes to sexual practices for the newly married Christian couple. So, I will, this is important here, so I'm going to read this. Not all of it, thank God. But anyway, I'll just, I'll pick out the bits I've actually underlined at the time. Anyway, basically, they say that sexual activity between married couples, what about sexual activity between married couples within the marriage bond? It's not for elders to pry into intimate lives of married Christians. However, the Bible certainly enters into their lives. Those who would keep walking by Spirit should not ignore the scriptural indication of God's thinking. And they will do well to cultivate, see, this is quite important here, cultivate a hatred for everything that is unclean before Jehovah, including what are clearly perverted sexual practices. Okay? But this is important, this phrase, clearly perverted sexual practices. Married couples should act in a way that will leave them with a clean conscience, as they give unimpeded attention to developing the fruitage of the Spirit. So, what though if one mate wants or even demands to share with his or his partner in what is clearly a perverted sexual practice? So in other words, it's trying to say is, obviously, the Watchtower's not coming to come there, but what happens if one mate says, look, how about a little bit of bum love tonight? You know, a little bit of bum love, you know. Or the other mate, that the woman could say, how about drinking from the hairy cup? You know? Or the husband could just say, is there any chance that you could give me a blowjob and also swallow it? So this is what it's talking about, obviously. Bum love, a BJ or a blowjob that's called, and also cunnilingus and fellatio. You know, airlingus. Oh no, that's a completely different thing. That's a company that flies planes in from Ireland to be sure. They're called airlingus, not cunnilingus. Never make that mistake when making a booking. I'd like some cunnilingus, please. Sorry, is this not anyway? Hairlingus. There you go. You can see how the confusion is. So basically, it goes on to say, the above presented facts show that porneia involves unlawful sexual conduct outside the marriage, marital arrangement. So that, you know, that chestnut about porneia. Well, you can't be done for porneia for anything which goes down in the marriage. Okay, so you've got to hand it to the people of dealing with this letter, because they've really thought about how to properly word this watch our article. So it says here, it says, thus a mate's enforcing, here we go again. The mates enforcing perverted acts such as oral and or anal sex within the marriage would not constitute a scriptural basis for a divorce, because you're up to stuff in here. So so in other words, what they're getting at here, that maybe a woman would go up to the body of elders and say, my husband last night he was actually in my pussy, he pulled it out, and before I knew it, he was shagging my arse. He was engaging in some bum love, and I didn't want bum love. Does this mean I can divorce him because it was an unnatural entry? And then of course he came back in again, and it was a re-entry. This is what they were getting at. So obviously people were saying this, or you can see the way that maybe some sisters were trying to get out of their shit marriage by saying that that the husband preferred bum love, and perhaps it's constituted porneia, because maybe they're thinking the reason why he prefers bum love is because maybe he is a gaydo in disguise. Maybe I've married a man who's a gaydo in disguise who prefers a little bit of bum love, and he's thinking he's rogering somebody called Roger. And so that's what this is trying to get at. It's trying to basically stop women, well, not always women, but women saying, I want a divorce because he's into rogering my bum. Anyway, so they're saying, so basically not, because porneia is something goes on with outside the marriage. If something goes down inside the marriage, you can get a divorce. Anyway, cracking on with the crack. It says, as already stated, it is not for elders to police a private marital affair in matters of couples in the congregation. However, if it becomes known in the congregation that in the member of the congregation is practicing or openly advocating perverted sexual relations within the marriage bond, that one certainly would not be reprehensible, and so would not be acceptable for special privileges such as serving as an elder or a servant or a pioneer. Such practice and advocacy could lead to expulsion from the congregation. So what's actually saying here is, if somebody brags, who's going to actually say this, to be honest with you? Let's be honest with you, but, maybe these comes out, maybe a brother's saying, I don't know, is your wife into a bit of bum love? What are you on about bum love? I was, my wife loves a bit of bum love, and he goes, oh my goodness, brother, I'm shocked that you can even say that. And obviously, this is maybe what it's talking about, or referring to a woman saying, there's nothing I like better in the evening than swallowing a mouthful of cum. It may be that, it may be that it's referring to, and it's saying, obviously mostly from a man's viewpoint, but obviously the man, would have to provide, he'd have to shoot his load for his wife to swallow it anyway, so he's guilty here of engaging in the, what do they call it, the perverted sexual practice. So in other words, if it gets found out that a servant or an elder or pioneer are engaging in either oral sex or bum love, that they can no longer hold that position. Or even advocating it, even say, well, I don't do it myself, but I wouldn't mind a little bit of bum love. But they would be removed from their position. And it says they could also be expelled from the congregation. Bizarre. Why? And it says Galatians 5:19-21 lists many vices that are not classed as porneia and which could lead to something called, it's a Greek word called akatharesia, signifying filthiness, depravity, lewdness, and loose conduct. Oh, loose conduct, that was always a favourite. Greek asilegia, and it says signifying licentiousness, wantonness, shameless conduct. Like porneia, these vices, when they become gross, can be grounds for disfellowshipping from the Christian congregation, but not for obtaining a scriptural divorce. Oh, that old chestnut which I covered in the other thing. So in other words, if it comes out that somebody was engaging in bum love or in oral sex, either drinking from from the shaven haven or from the fairy cup, that it could mean that they could actually get disfellowshipped. I wonder if this ever happened. I wonder if anybody ever got disfellowshipped for bum love. I don't know. Brother Harrop. Has this ever happened? Does anybody know that anybody ever got disfellowshipped for engaging in bum love? I don't know, Let's get to the bottom of this one, because I really would love to know if anybody got disfellowshipped for engaging in bum love. So anyway, it says that they couldn't get scriptural divorce, so we'll have to knock that one on the head. It says, but of course a person with that attitude might even sink to committing porneia, then there will be a basis for scriptural divorce. So anyway, that's it really. That's the long and short, so the short and curly of it, to be honest with you. That's the short and curly of it. That basically that's saying here that anal sex and oral sex are both clearly perverted sexual practices, and that you could be removed as an elder, a servant or a pioneer if you either engage in the practices or advocate them, and then it says you could even, if they get really gross, I don't know, what's he talking about there? I don't know. But if it gets really gross, I don't know, maybe arse to mouth, I don't know, I'm just thinking outside the box at the moment, and then you could get disfellowship. So there you go. So anyways, that was clear. So that was the instruction that anybody getting married around about the 80s was no under illusion that basically bum love and BJ's cunnilingus were off the table, literally off the table. Nothing. There was no going down by anybody at all, and so that's the way it was, unfortunately. Even when you felt like a little bit of, you were thinking, oh no, this is wrong. A bolt of lightning's going to hit me now when I tell my wife to. Look, it's throbbing, and that sort of thing, and just pour it in your mouth, only for a wee while, going, oh no, we can't. Jehovah will be angry, or that's all of a sudden, it's going to affect your performance as a man if all of a sudden your wife outshouts, no, we can't. Jehovah will be angry. You'd just be thinking, you can just imagine you go, what are you going to do with that? You can just imagine that's a scenario. So anyway, let's crack on. So why I wrote these letters. And I'm not going to read all these letters because there's too much in it. But basically, we then got friendly with a younger group of people who are probably 10 years younger than us, who'd got married in the 90s, right? So we got married in the 80s. So we got next generation got married in the mid-90s, and they were from Gloucestershire. And the couple were quite open in talking about sex, and so it came to pass that they admitted that they engaged in oral sex, and not bum love, but definitely oral sex, and that it was well known within the congregations in the area that the women did perform oral sex on the men, and some of them even swallowed. And of course they go, oh, I always spit it out. Oh, you swallow it as well? Yeah, I swallow it. Oh, I just spit it out and let it like dribble down my tits. Oh no, I swallow it, and then I show a clean tongue. Extraordinary. These are sisters sort of doing bragging rights of who's the best person at giving a blowjob. Unbelievable. And these are wives of ministerial servants and pioneers who are saying this. And even as well engaging in bum love. So when I heard this, of course, I was aghast. I'm thinking, what's going on? Did this actual watchtower not make it to Gloucestershire? What is going on? Why the double standards? And I was thinking, if Armageddon comes tomorrow, all these people down in Gloucestershire are going to go down for going down. They're going to die at Armageddon for going down on each other. So I thought it was the responsible thing for me to do to clarify with the Bethel in London exactly whether you could go down by going down, because according to that watchtower, which we're all trying very hard to adhere to, that there's you can go down, and bum love is definitely not on the table. There's definitely not going to be any bum love. So I wrote a letter to the watchtower, and they've just basically said, oh yes, that they referred to this watchtower. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm not going to the whole thing because it is 3 pages long, but I'm just going to get on with it. I'm just going to go on to the main parts. So basically, this watchtower is quite clear. There's no grey area about this. It's quite clear here that both oral sex and anal sex are clearly a perverted sexual practice, and you get removed from your position, and you could even end up getting disfellowship. So quite serious. But all of a sudden, and this is 83. That's Watchtower. This is 2002. So I'm not even talking about is it a decade? It's not even a decade later. It's 9 years later. So it's not as though we're going, oh, that's old truth. That's old truth. We're still pretty recent truth. So I ring them up. Sorry, I write to them, and they write me this 3-page letter, and basically just getting to the specific points. It says here, for example, anal copulation in marriage is not specifically prohibited in the Bible, but in addition to having in mind the principle in God's word, nature, this is actually referring to another scripture, doing things contrary to nature. But while they're saying yes, this really refers to homosexuals, we're applying what doing things contrary to nature is what homosexuals do. But what we're saying is within the marriage is engaging in anal sex, is engaging in bum love going contrary to nature. So it says, for example, anal copulation in marriage is not specifically prohibited in the Bible, but in addition to having in mind the principle in God's word, nature itself should teach married couples that this practice is perverted and unclean. So, in other words, they're basically reaffirming the point in this watchtower, which called it a perverted sexual practice. This calls it perverted and unclean. That's anal sex. Then it goes on to say, a little bit on, blah, 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 blah. It cracks on to say, on the other hand, where there is real love, consideration and understanding in the marriage, a Christian couple should never have to feel the need to resort to such extreme practices as oral sex in order to satisfy proper sexual needs and desires. Now, if you can see where I got slightly confused here, is because that there holds back from calling oral sex a clearly a perverted sexual practice. Here it says that oral sex and anal sex is clearly a perverted sexual practice, and if you do it, no privileges, could get disfellowshipped. This one here only says that anal sex is a perverted sexual practice, and in here it says if there's real love and consideration, they shouldn't need to go to extreme practices, oral sex, in order to satisfy proper sexual need and desire. Look, I'm really sorry here, but I kid you not. I would have thought that engaging in oral sex, I think you'd probably need a little bit more of consideration, understanding and real love to actually do that, because it's not everybody's cup of tea, because not everybody likes drinking from the furry cup. It's not everybody's cup of tea, or drinking from the shaven haven, and it's not every cup of tea swallowing hot sticky cum. It's not it's not everybody's cup of tea, this. Let's be honest with you about it. Not everybody likes a little bit of oral sex, or maybe a little bit, but not a lot of it. It's not everybody's cup of tea. So I think actually for a couple to actually to engage in in oral sex, I think you'd actually need a little bit more understanding and love and consideration to say, look, I've been banging away the same place for a long, long time now. How about we mix and match it a bit, and how about we spin around? How about you? Come on, let's mix and match it about it. Especially if the woman is maybe on a period and the guy's absolutely desperate. Oh, I'm absolutely desperate. Is there any chance you give me a hand job and then finish me off in your mouth? You can see, for a wife to do that, she'd have to have, consideration on the side, thinking, yeah, my husband wants to make love with me, but I'm on my period and I love him that much. I'm just gonna give him a blowjob and I'm showing him a clean tongue afterwards because that's how much I love this guy. So, cracking on to the last page, it says, as a consequence, it's on about satisfaction in the marriage. It says, as a consequence, they find increasing delight and pleasure in rendering the marital due. It says, this is bizarre, this. While modern sex manuals imply that the wife must have a sexual climax every time the couple have sexual relations, this is certainly an extreme view. What? This is certainly an extreme view. Well, I'm sorry, sisters, but according to the Watchtower is, as long as the husband comes, you should be satisfied with that. It's an extreme view that you should come when your husband comes, and it's an extreme view, obviously perpetuated by the world, that when a man and a woman engage in sexual relations, that the woman should also come. Clearly it's the man's prerogative to always come, but for a woman's, maybe not. Maybe this is, the weaker vessel, or whatever way you want to downgrade what the part of woman is. A woman should just be happy that a man's managed to blow his load, in whichever hole he fancies, but then maybe it hasn't worked out for her. Bizarre. It goes on to say, often it is the tenderness, patience and genuine love reflected by the husband while sharing the marriage bed that is appreciated more by the wife than trying to stimulate new heights in sexual gratification. Especially if some highly questionable and conscience disturbing means is used to accomplish this. So basically it's trying to say that the wife should be quite happy that the man's only lasted like 40 seconds or a minute and should be happy with that. Yeah, that was great. The earth didn't move to me. I should be happy. Oh dear, honestly, it's here. You couldn't make this up, and you won't find this anywhere. Luckily, I'm the only one. I'm maybe the only person in the whole wide world has got this insight into insight in how the brothers who run this organisation really think about women especially into obtaining an orgasm from a husband. No wonder there's so many unhappy wives knocking about when the husband just think, well, as long as I come, that's a job done, really, isn't it? Job done. I'm not. By the way, I'm not lying on the wet patch. Here's some tissues. Go and sort it out. Oh my God. Oh, you couldn't make this crap up. And the worst about it is, it says, the wife should be happy with that. There are some women, obviously, that maybe the man is so absolutely crap with his knob that they only can come with his tongue and fingers. They can only come during oral sex because the man's so shit. Penetration, and that misses the only way. So this is what this is saying. It's saying, therefore, the wife should be happy that the man's penetration techniques is shit and she never comes, and that she shouldn't then say to him, by the way, oh, very good, you've come, you're happy now, well, what am I supposed to do now? Off you go, get down there. Off you go, get down there. Okay, here's a tissue, clean it out first, but I want you to make me come now. There you go. But it's saying here that it says here that she should appreciate the attempts at penetration more by the wife than trying to stimulate new heights in sexual gratification, especially if some questionable and conscious disturbing means is used to accomplish. So there you go. That's it. So, okay, I've only just understood now reading that what that's trying to get at, because I was actually more bothered at the time that it wasn't labelling oral sex in the same way as it was with anal sex in relation to cultivating a perverted sexual practice. But actually reading that now, it's actually more disturbing. Hold on. It's actually more disturbing. So I was confused because this is only 9 years on, and they're saying in this watchtower that anal and oral are grouped together as perverted sexual practices. In here, anal sex, bum love is a perverted sexual practice, but it doesn't go so far to say that the oral sex is a perverted sexual practice. That's all. It calls it an extreme practice, but not a perverted practice. So obviously, you know, if it's extreme practice, you know, no disfellowshipping, no removing of privileges. So I got really confused. So I wrote back to the elders, back to the Bethel. Literally, probably that day, I was hot off the press, and I wrote them again and just said to them, okay, the anal sex is a perverted sexual practice, but what about oral sex? You know, you seem to not be confirming what the watchtower from 9 years ago says. And it's a short letter, it's one page. It says, "Dear Brother Harrop, thank you for your latest letter in which you seek further clarification as to the propriety of Christians engaging in oral sex." So they go to say that we recognise that our letter did not, now this is bizarre this, we recognise that our letter, EF, July 23rd, 2002, I don't know what EF stands for. Could EF stand for, don't know, elongated foreskin? I don't know, EF, it's not my initials. Maybe it's the person who did it. I don't know. Whoever EF is. EF, July 23rd. No. I don't know. It says, we recognise that our letter, EF, July 23rd, 2002, did not explicitly answer the specific question you raised about oral sex. No shit. Because that was the question I asked them. Is oral sex and anal sex a perverted sexual practice? So they never answered it. You know, and this is nothing new with Jehovah's Witnesses. Nothing new that still, when you actually say, look, answer this specific question, they dodge it. So they've dodged answering my question. They still do not answer it because they go on to say, however, as we explain it is not our desire to try and police Christian married couples and such matters. Jehovah has not provided specific direction on every situation that may come up in life. So it wouldn't be proper for us to try and provide such. Rather, as explained in the April the 15th, 2002, watch our article, Guide Your Steps by Godly Principles. Jehovah sees it fit to lead us by his lofty principles in conjunction with our well-trained conscience, Romans 2:14-15. So each one has a personal responsibility to carefully and prayerfully examine what the Bible says and to weigh their own motives and the proddings. Well, there's a word that just you know forces its way in when we're talking about sex. So proddings of their own conscience. We believe that it is important for us not to judge others in such matters, because I actually mentioned, by the way, that there are brothers and sisters who, you know, it says, we believe that it is important for us not to judge others in such matters, knowing that each of us will render an account for himself to God. Jehovah can read hearts and judges us fairly. We appreciate that this is a matter of concern to you, but we really do not feel that we can add much to what we've already written. We would therefore kindly suggest that you carefully and prayerfully review our earlier letter, and the material referred to above. Oh, not that one, obviously. You may also wish to ask one or two of the elders of the congregation to consider this material with you, showing them our letter so that they well know how we've answered you. They will doubtless be able to help you to reason on Bible principles and illustrations, provided that, you know, God, I hate to think an elder's illustration when it comes to oral sex and bum love, but there you go. Illustrations presented therein. We sincerely hope that our comments and suggestions will assist you with your desire to continue rendering sacred service with a clean conscience. We continue, blah, blah, blah. One Christian, love the brothers. Going back to this bit here, it says here, it says that there's not all things are mentioned in the Bible, but so in other words, everybody has their own personal responsibility to prayerfully examine what is good by their conscience. So it still doesn't explain. If that's the case, then that they're saying actually it's really up to couples to decide what's acceptable in the marriage bed. If that's what they're saying there, it's up to couples to decide what's acceptable in the marriage bed. How is it that only 9 years before they're quite dogmatic the society are absolutely dogmatic. It's not, according to this, it's not a conscious matter. According to what they put in the Watchtower, oral sex and anal sex is not a conscience matter. It's a serious matter which can result in removal of position and potentially somebody being disfellowshipped. It's not a conscious matter. It's not up to your Bible-trained conscience to decide whether you can, if you're a married couple, engage in oral sex and anal sex according to this. And yet, even going by the letter they sent me, still, anal sex is not a conscious matter. They're quite clearly saying, we're still not too happy with bum love. We're still not happy with bum love. That's all of a sudden. So hold on a second. What's the difference? How is it that bum love is not a conscience matter, but oral sex is a conscience matter? It doesn't make any sense. And therefore, I wasn't able to go back to the people in Gloucestershire to tell them that they would go down at Armageddon for going down, because according to the non-clarification from the Watchtower as admitted by them, it was open-ended. And then I just thought to myself, my God, this Watchtower here had really stopped people getting married from like 83 onwards, who would have really loved to, to fire their loads, in their wife's mouth and say, I want a clean tongue. Really have loved to do that, but this Watchtower here held them back. The old expression that every hole would be a goal. Well, no, this rendered there was only one hole available for entry, and that was a woman's vagina. But according to this letter here, bum love was out, but oral sex was up to yourself. So why the disparity? Why 9 years later why 9 years later have they changed their mind on this? What's happened? I don't know. It's a strange one. But anyway, so it's still I'm still confused. If that's the case, then is bum love is now allowed? Is bum love now back on the menu? No, back in the marital bed, Is that allowed? I don't know. I'm confused. Toys. And maybe we should write to the society about toys. Are toys allowed? I can't satisfy my wife. Is it all right that we use a rampant rabbit? I don't know. What's allowed anymore? But anyway, that's it. So if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you've just watched this, bearing in mind that I'm just quoting from 2 letters and a Watchtower article, can you clarify this for me, please? Is bum love bum love still off the menu, and is oral sex off the menu again? Is that now this sort of flip-flopped again, and it's now back to being a perverted sexual practice, or is oral sex is now got the is that still okay? I don't know, but I kid you not, that Watchtower 1983, that definitely had repercussions for a whole decade, until obviously people forgot that this Watchtower existed, and the ones that got married in the 90s didn't even know about this, and so they were, oh my God, the fun I missed out with getting early married, getting married in the 80s, or as Paul witnesses who were trying to do it Jehovah's way. Oh my God, it's extraordinary the damage that this organisation's done by clearly trying to micromanage such things, or what you as a husband and wife do in your bed. Trying to either micromanage that, it's extraordinary. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and hope I tried to be as unoffensive as possible. But sometimes I just can't help myself. But anyway, yes, there you go. Well, I don't know. That's it, really. I've come to the end of the discussion. I'm just going to sit down right now and smoke a fag. Oh my God. At least I've got a smile on my face. At least there's not anything else on my face. Anyway, they didn't get stuck in my beard. Anyway. Oh dear. Where'd you go to from here? Sorry, I'm just going to move on. I'm just going to say goodbye. That's it. I've embarrassed myself now, though. Right, see you later. Bye bye.